Welcome back. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get it to return the players that are around us back to our client so that we can spawn in some proxies. So I'm going to close this down, and we are going to go back to our server here. And we need to add another method to our player service. So the first thing we want to do is update our interface, right? This is what we promise to implement, and so that's the first thing that we want to take a look at. So when you go to the player service here, I'm going to copy this over, and we'll talk about it. So we're going to have a task where we'll return a list of player states, okay, because there's multiple players. We're going to call it get other players near me, and we're going to send in our player name so it knows, hey, don't return myself to me. I'm only really interested in other people, not myself. Okay, and so now we're going to come to our player service, and it's Matt again saying, hey, you didn't implement what you promised. Don't worry, we will. And so we're going to copy that in, and now it's happy again. Well, kind of. We didn't return what we said we'd return. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the player state from the player's list. Remember, that's our concurrent dictionary for the player we send in. We're actually not using this yet, but we will later. Initially, we're not going to filter the players other than to remove ourselves. So now we're going to create a list, players nearby. This is what we're going to return at the end. We're going to build this list of players nearby us, and we're going to return it. So I'm actually going to add that at the end. That's what we're returning. Task from result, and we're saying here's the players nearby, and that's going to return us a JSON list of players. And so, it's nearby. Yep, looks good. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to loop through all of our players. So in this, what we're doing is we're looping through each player state item in our players list, our dictionary, and we're basically saying, hey, give us everybody who's not me, right? So we're saying if the key is not equal to our player name, the key is the name, that's how we're storing them, then add it to this players nearby. Later we'll add in some kind of thing here where we do a distance calculation on our player state, which we pulled up here, location, to the other, and then we can say, hey, only send me people within this certain distance. That's what MMO servers do. For now, we're just going to say, hey, we want to see something on screen. Send me back everybody that's not me. And so now we're good. So now we want to use that over in our player controller. But there's a bit of a problem. So we can make a call to get these other players near me, and we could return them. But it's not going to return them as a variable. So the way that it's going to format the JSON, it's not going to have a variable. And UE4 likes to make it easy to use their built-in functions. It likes the JSON list assigned to a variable. So to make it happy, we are going to create an encapsulating class. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here. We're going to come down to data, right-click, and we're going to add a class, and we're going to call it players list, and it's going to be a public class players list, and all it's going to have in it is public list, and the list is going to be of player state, and we'll call it players list, and that players list there that we have, that is going to be, this is going to be the variable we look for in UE4. Okay, that's it. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to say that we want to make a players list called players nearby. and we want it to equal a new players list. And then we're going to say players nearby dot, if I could spell, players list equals, await, we have to stop, player service dot get other players near me, and it asks us to send in the player name, which we have here, so it knows who to exclude. It's a bad copy. Not clicking that right at all. Control C, Control V, and then in this OK, we can return our players nearby. So now, when we call this post to API player over in UE4, we're now going to get some JSON back. And we can actually test that here. So we're back into Fiddler. And we're going to start this thing running. It's on the other screen. And we're going to go to Fiddler, and we're going to hit execute. And we don't want to follow through it unless there's a problem. Okay, and it returned back no players. Okay, but that makes sense because we said don't return ourselves. Okay, so now we're going to create a new character called not Dart. Okay, so now this time, since we're not Dart, we should see Dart. And we're going to do it again. And look at this. We now returned player name Dart with our rotation and our XYZ that we sent in. So I think it's working. It's time to go over to UE4. I'm going to stop this. I remember every time we stop it, we lose all the data. That's another thing that we don't have here. There's no persistence. So that would be another thing we'd have to add to make this a real MMO server. That's why it's a fake MMO server. Okay. Let's go to UE4. So we want to go back to our fake MMO character CPP, and here we want to grab some data. So what we want to do is we want to copy some shared pointers here we can use. So we've got a JSON object. You know, these underlines never go away, but whatever. They're not always right. And we've got our reader, and we're going to do response get content as string and load it into the reader. Then we want to make sure that this is valid. It would not be valid if it didn't have any data. So what we're going to do is at the end of this, we're going to say, hey, server return no data. And we're just going to throw this as an error to tell us if for some reason it didn't return data. I think it should, but if we see that error, we'll know what it is. Then what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's a field, players list. Because if there isn't, then we don't want to start reading it. And so what we want to do is we want to create an array of type TArray JSON value rows. And remember this players list field here? That matched this right here, players list, in our players list. So that matches. It's good. Sometimes when people are trying to parse JSON, that's where they end up with issues, not getting all these things to match. And then we want to loop through the rows. So we'll create a for loop here. It's like, okay, let's start at 0. Let's go up to the number of rows in this array, and we'll go through them one by one, start processing them. We don't have this yet. Proxy character. Oh, wait. Yeah, we do. That's this. My bad. We don't have our proxy character BP yet, but we'll fix that. So we're going to create a temp one we can play with. And we're going to basically enumerate the values in the object into this temp row. So this is going to be an object. We're going to grab it as an object so that we can pull the values out of it. And we're just going to pull some values here. So we're going to do get string field on the player name, save it in temp proxy character player name. That's this right here. Grab our location, grab our rotation. And then what we want to do is we want to ask a question. So we want to ask, did our proxy characters contain this already, or was this new? And so to do that, we have to go back over to our fake MMO character, and we want to add a T-map, which is basically a dictionary, over here called proxy characters. We're going to store the ones over here that we're getting so we can use them. And so we're basically asking, hey, did we already get this? Was this the first time that we've got back this character? Or do we already have it? And here, if we already have it, we're going to update. But if we don't already have it, then we're going to add. And so to update, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, oh, we haven't done this yet. Getting ahead of myself. I want to show you the steps of it failing so that you can see what things do. So we take our player location and our player rotation, and we're going to add them into the list if it already exists, right? We're looking it up by the key player name. And then we're going to call this blueprint function notify update character. So we have to build that in blueprint. But if it didn't exist, then we want to use add here to add it. And then we're going to say notify new character. So those are our two blueprint functions that we're going to need to build. So if this works correctly, this should load our data and call these blueprint functions. See if it compiles. It did. So we're going to come in here, notify new character, and notify update character. Okay, but we need a proxy character. So let's come over here, do a new blueprint class, character, proxy character, open this thing up. Go to our mesh, we'll choose our mannequin, we'll choose third person anim BP, -90Z, -90 rotation Z, and I think that's good enough for now. We'll come over here, go to our class defaults, we've got this fake MMO section, and we will choose our proxy character. And I'm gonna load up my other project here to make sure I don't miss anything. This is just for simple testing and prototyping. We would do all of this in C++ so that we don't invoke the extra costs of BP. But for now, we're gonna do it here to make it simple. Okay, so we're going to do in our new is we're going to break this. Let's look at this as access. And we are going to, if it's new, we want to spawn. Here's another area where we would likely do things differently in a real MMO. We want to try to minimize spawning. So it'd probably do some kind of thing like where when they went away from you a certain distance, maybe you just hide them, and then maybe after they went a certain amount, you'd unload them out of memory. So there's some different techniques we could use. We're going to split this, and we are going to drag. No, we can't drag it. we got our get proxy character class. Oh, you know what? I forgot that didn't work. I didn't choose the right type. We're going to skip that and just select it directly. And then we're going to grab our player location, and we're going to update it. And for our rotation, I'm going to split this. I'm going to split this, and we're really interested in the Z. Then we're going to take this object, and we're going to set player... We don't have a player name. Okay, we're going to go to our proxy character. Open up the blueprint editor. We're going to add player name. Hold on. Let me take a look. Yeah, we can do that. So we add our player name here. We'll make it a string. And right here we'll set player name. And then we want to work on, so that's the first time when it's created, and then we want to work on our update. We do the same break. And we're going to use, there are probably better ways to do this, but we're going to do get all actors of class, proxy character, and we're going to loop through them with a break, so when we find the right one we can stop. And again we're going to split the rotation, and we're going to say get player name is equal to this player name that we got sent in, and if it is, meaning we found the current one that's already on the map, we are going to, didn't want that, set actor location and rotation on the true branch, and then we will break so we don't keep looping when we find it. Location's going to get pulled to location. I could send all of the rotation there, but I'd have to convert to a rotator, and I was having some trouble with some of that. Okay, well, looks pretty good. So I think what's going to happen now is that we're going to see the other character pop up. Now, we haven't packaged it yet, but each time we hit play, it's actually going to randomly generate a different character. So what we should be able to do, let's go back to our fake MMO server, and let's run it. It loaded up on this screen. I'm leaving it over there. And what we should be able to do is we should be able to play this twice. I'm going to shut down that one. So I've only got the one open. And we should be able to move to a certain place here and hit escape. And now we should be able to start again, and we should see that proxy character. Haha! See? There it is. That's that other character that was still sitting in the player state from our previous one. So if we exit this, that one's now they're both gonna pop up. See? So we're loading them in. Now I just gotta get them moving. So, what we want to do is we want to package the game. So we're gonna do package project Windows. Okay, so there's a nasty error in packaging that when you pick a location, okay, so I'm going to create a new folder. When you try to pick a folder, it actually crashes to desktop. Oops, I didn't want a zip file. So I'm going to do new folder. So create one in advance outside, fake MMO package. and then it won't crash to desktop. We can actually hit continue since we're running from Visual Studio. But okay, so we're going to package it to fake MMO package. Select folder. Unlike when you go to package your own game and it takes like 4 hours, this thing takes like 30 seconds. So it's not too bad. Otherwise, I'd stop the video. At least it wasn't too bad the last time I built it. And then what we'll do is we'll create a batch file to load it up in windowed mode. And we will run 2 of them, and we will watch each other. And you may be able to guess, if you know a little bit about networking and you know a little bit about how older MMOs and older games from the 90s and stuff, you may be able to guess what it's going to look like. We'll see if you're right. A little more than 30 seconds, but not too bad. And we hear the happy sound. So now we can close this, and we can go to our MMO package, and we can go into our Windows No Editor, and we can create a text file called run fake MMO. We want the name of it. Pull it over here. I'm going to go into another one I have here. I already have it set up. Edit this batch file. And so what we want to add is this. So we're setting a reg selection X to 1280, Y to 600, started at 2020, whatever. No Steam windowed. You don't need all that, but it'll work. And I'm going to go back to our MMO package project, and we're going to convert this to a bat file. Yep, that's fine. We're going to come back here, and we're going to hit recycle, so it clears out those other ones. It restarted this again. That clears it out. Now I've closed what I wanted to have open. And we're going to run this. Move out of the way, otherwise the guy would spawn on top of us. And we're going to come here and get that up in this corner. And we're going to run another one. Nope. Got to Alt-Tab to something here so I can move it. Okay. So now as we move around, remember, we were only updating once a second, and there's no smoothing or anything else. But, as you can see here, we have there's no UE4 server running, and our location is being updated. Pretty cool. In the next video, we will increase our update speed, which is not going to do as much as you would think to fix it. We actually need to replicate velocity. That's the secret. And even replicating velocity is not good enough. That gets us our animation, our walking animation, so that makes it look a little bit better. But even that has issues, and we'll look at another trick that we can use to make it look a little bit smoother. So we will do that in the next video.